Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Smithville Fiber Internet, streaming TV, home security and automation in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. MALLOR GRODNER Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis. LawMG.com. IU Alumni Association, connecting IU's network of alumni and sharing the Indiana spirit through scholarships, advocacy, and volunteerism. Alumni.iu.edu. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnership with communities and organizations. Rural.indiana.edu. And by WTIU members. Thank you.
Coming up on Indiana Newsdesk. Lawmakers approved a bill this week that paves the way for charter schools to access referendum funds. And a coal plant bill we've been telling you about is dramatically different than it was a week ago.
Nothing in this bill slows down any transition to renewable power. Nothing.
Just ahead, the legislative session is winding down and we have team coverage. Pete Buttigieg is out of the running for the Democratic presidential nomination. But what's next for the former South Bend mayor?
If a Democrat ultimately gets in office, he's certainly proven his chops on policy and he could look for a position in the cabinet.
And as health officials grapple with how to contain the coronavirus outbreak, we asked what questions you have. Those stories plus the latest news headlines right now on Indiana Newsdesk. Welcome to Indiana Newsdesk. I'm Joe Wren. Well, with only days left in the legislative session, lawmakers are rushing to get a number of bills across the finish line. There was a lot of movement this week, including a couple bills on their way to the governor's desk. We have team coverage from the Statehouse. We'll start tonight with Mitch Legan. He reports on a bill that could force the removal of Indiana's embattled Attorney General, Curtis Hill.
Hill would be forced to step down as Attorney General if his license was suspended for at least a month under an amendment passed by the House Monday. A disciplinary hearing officer said last month they recommended Hill be suspended for 60 days following accusations that he groped 4 women at a party in 2018.
The governor and legislative leaders have called on Hill to step down, but they haven't pursued impeachment measures. The amendment says if the officeholder's license is suspended for 30 or more days, they forfeit their position, and the governor gets to name a replacement. Current law only requires the Attorney General to have a law license and live in Indiana. Representative Tim Wesco says his amendment is a matter of good policy. Is it acceptable for the AG to hold a suspended law license?
I propose to you that aside from all present circumstances, the answer is no. It is not acceptable. Thus, I urge you to support the amendment.
Ultimately, Indiana Supreme Court justices will decide if Hill faces any punishment stemming from those allegations. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Mitch Legan.
One bill on its way to the governor will end the mandatory use of student standardized test results in teacher evaluations, dropping a requirement long opposed by teachers. The state Senate voted 50-0 Tuesday in favor of the proposal. The votes represent an about-face on the mandate from a 2011 Republican-driven education overhaul that school districts decide student exam results in teacher evaluations, which help determine merit pay raises. Well, now my colleague Brandon Smith joins us for more on This Week at the Statehouse. You know, Brandon, we've talked about a couple bills, but it's been a hectic week, so there's a lot more to get to. I want to start with needle exchanges. The exchanges were set to expire in 2021. But maybe not now.
Yeah, almost certainly not now. There was a bill earlier this session that would have permanently extended those syringe exchange programs, but the Senate killed that bill and really put them in jeopardy. So a compromise measure that cleared the House this week and is going to the governor, who supports these programs, would extend them a year further to 2022, giving what Republican Representative Ed Clear called another year of certainty to those programs. That sets up a more difficult conversation a year from now in the 2021 session about what to do long-term about the state's 9 existing syringe exchange programs.
Another controversial piece of legislation would let public schools share referendum dollars with charter schools. And many of public school advocates are against the bill. But what are both sides saying about this legislation?
Well, part of the reason it's controversial is in part because it came out of nowhere, seemingly. Nobody really, this wasn't an issue that had been going on all session long. It just popped up out of nowhere. So what the bill says right now is that public schools could, but are not required to, split the referendum dollars from those public questions with charter schools in their area. Now, supporters of the bill say, one, it might make it easier for those referendums to pass, and two, public schools are sometimes the authorizers, the groups that set up these charter schools, so they want to split these dollars with those schools. Now, what opponents argue is that this is just the first step towards making these sorts of splits mandatory, and that's what they really don't want. They don't want public schools to be forced to share those dollars against their will. Right now, it's likely that that bill will pass, though, because it is, like I said, not mandatory, just a may provision.
Okay. Some lawmakers are rallying behind legislation to protect women in the workplace. We have a clip here from a rally they held yesterday.
Let our government become a model for a safe workplace. We can do this. We need only the political will to do so.
Brandon, what happens with this legislation?
Nothing at this point. We saw a bill earlier this session that would have provided pregnancy accommodations for women in the workplace, sidelined and ultimately gutted by the Senate, and the House never wanted to revive that. They felt like this is an issue that needs more time, more study, and so they're going to look over the interim before 2021 to kind of research this issue more, though dozens of other states do it. There's also an issue of adding a definition of consent to Indiana state law so that sex without consent would automatically be a crime, which it is not under Indiana law right now. But there were a couple bills that would have done that. They never got hearings this session, and it's way too late in session now, even as advocates call for these things, to sort of revive them.
Okay, Brandon, that's all the time we have. Thank you very much. We spent a lot of time covering the bill that would make it harder for utilities to shut down coal plants. That legislation got amended this week.
Nothing in this bill slows down any transition to renewable power. Nothing. Nothing in this bill has the potential to raise rates. The only thing that could have was the additional coal storage that was removed from the bill. We're going to have a base load of coal power in this state for a long time.
Even after the legislature adjourns, a task force will continue to study whether to relocate schools for the blind and the deaf. As Adam Pinsker reports, the buildings are in dire need of maintenance.
Estimates show it would cost more than $62 million to upgrade the school for the deaf and another $35 million to fix the school for the blind.
And that's a lot of money to spend on infrastructure to maintain aging infrastructure. So my personal concern is I would love to see us spending that more of that money on curricula.
State Senator Liz Brown sits on the task force, which is considering whether finding a brand new home for both campuses would be more cost efficient.
Both campuses, both administrations have been very, very open to looking to see how we can share the best practices while not damaging the curriculum they have.
Brown says another possibility is demolishing buildings that aren't being used. That would help reduce costs. But some officials say moving the schools is being rushed because of their location. The buildings sit on valuable real estate in Indianapolis near Meridian Kessler. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Adam Pinsker.
An official report published last month revealed just how much 2 virtual charter schools falsified student enrollment data and received millions in state funding. Now, Jeannie Lindsay tells us how lawmakers are reacting.
Officials still don't agree how the 2 virtual schools and the people operating them were able to wrongfully collect more than $86 million from the state. The 2 virtual schools were authorized by Daleville Community Schools, a district just outside of Muncie. The recent report spurred lawmakers to debate the issue as the legislative session starts to wrap up. But Republicans, including Senate Education Committee Chair Jeff Rotz, are hesitant to place more restrictions on virtual schools specifically.
We've got to be careful that we don't stifle the proliferation of what the future may look like, and virtual ed will certainly be part of the future.
A bill passed last year created new virtual charter school regulations. It included a provision to prevent school districts, like Daleville, from authorizing virtual charter schools.
We set a lot of things in place to make sure the Dalevilles of the world don't happen again.
But the report shared last month renewed debates at the Statehouse about what should be done now. Democrats have pressed for stricter rules for virtual charters based on recommendations from the state board and guidance issued from the education department. Republicans have voted most of those down. But Rotz says a proposal added into a bill last week will help track how students in all schools are attending and completing coursework.
And actually give us an opportunity even from the state level to say, hey, how come student X is not progressing?
And Rotz says next session he'll consider changes to help enforce those new regulations. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Jeannie Lindsay.
After months of delay, the state is releasing 2019 school accountability grades. The State Board of Education held off on sharing the letter grades after a significant drop in student test scores on the new iLearn test. Department of Education spokesperson Adam Baker rejects the idea that state letter grades are meaningless. But he says the federal accountability system is still operating normally and can give people an idea of how schools are doing.
And say, okay, these are still steady. Why am I not sure what's going on with my state grade? Should I have confidence in my district? I think you can use that to help gauge on paper. And again, I'd be clear, on paper, how that district is doing, yes.
More than half of schools in Indiana received federal ratings of meets or exceeds expectations last year. Coming up next on Indiana Newsdesk. Pete Buttigieg is endorsing Joe Biden after giving up his bid for the Democratic presidential nomination. Ahead, how the former South Bend mayor left his mark on history. Plus, we ask for your questions about the coronavirus, and a health expert joins us to provide some answers. These stories and more right here on Indiana Newsdesk.
The WTIU WFIU news team connects Indiana to the world. We bring you the top news of the day on radio, TV, and online. We round up the stories that have people talking each week and dig deep into the issues that affect your community the most. The WTIU WFIU news team is where you are and telling your story.
In a time of change, where can you find in-depth reporting and thoughtful analysis? Washington Week on PBS. Join moderator Robert Costa.
When I was at the Capitol this week, I encountered the same.
And a panel of award-winning journalists.
You're seeing a divided nation, and you're seeing.
For insights and perspective.
Tonight there was a key development in the
Senate. You won't find anywhere else.
What a week.
Washington Week.
Welcome back to Indiana Newsdesk. State health officials confirmed this morning Indiana has its first case of the coronavirus, and it's in Marion County. The governor quickly responded, declaring a public health emergency. As concerns grow about the coronavirus outbreak, we asked you for your questions about it. Right now, Graham McKean, who is the Assistant University Director of Public and Environmental Health at Indiana University, joins us to get some answers. You know, this is a rapidly changing situation. Can you give us just a little bit of an update of what's happening right now?
Well, a lot of things, obviously, and last check before we went on air here, there's 245 cases confirmed domestically in the United States, and as you just said, our first case in Indiana was confirmed about 11:15 this morning in a press conference. That case, we believe, was imported from the state of Massachusetts. The individual went to a biotech meeting near Boston, which had 3 other confirmed cases. And so while we were expecting this, that is our first case, and I think we're going to be expecting more cases, as many health officials have said.
Okay, so we know this is something that can be spread without symptoms, but how long is someone contagious for?
That is something we still do not have a firm answer for. Now, we are learning that the number of asymptomatic cases is actually quite low. They think maybe only about 1%, but we still think that this can be spread pre-clinically before you show symptoms. And so in that regard, it does kind of spread like the flu, but we don't exactly know how long your entire infectious period is.
All right. Another question we received, right now the numbers of people who die from the flu is many more times than the COVID-19 virus. What makes it more dangerous?
Well, that's a great question, and when we talk about the flu, we got to think of terms of scope, right? I think we're probably about 35 million cases estimated of the flu in the United States, and probably over 20,000 deaths already. Now we've just passed 100,000 confirmed cases of this virus, and what's concerning about that to me is currently the case fatality rate based on these numbers is about 3.34% globally. the seasonal flu in the United States kills 0.1%. So this is much more deadly than the flu. Now when we learn more, we get more cases, I think that denominator is going to widen a bit. So I think the actual fatality rate is lower. And I think in developing areas, it's probably less than 1%, but I think our main concern is up to 4% in some of these developing areas.
Okay, and then we have time for one more quick question. What's the latest on the availability of testing kits in Indiana?
In Indiana, the State Department of Health does have a test kit available now. They are producing tests rapidly. We're supposed to get about 1.5 million out in the next week, but right now the demand is exceeding supply.
All right, thank you very much for being here. I'm sure there'll be much more.
There will be, thank you.
Thank you. Former South Bend Mayor Pete Buttigieg is out of the presidential race, but those who knew Buttigieg say his political future remains bright. Adam Pinsker reports.
He may no longer be a candidate for president, but South Bend Democrats say Mayor Pete's rise to national prominence these last several months is the ultimate Hoosier comeback story.
They call me Mayor Pete. I am a proud son of South Bend, Indiana, and I am running for president of the United States.
It's been 11 months since South Bend Mayor Pete Buttigieg burst onto the national political scene by entering the 2020 presidential race.
Affect a lot more voters than whatever the outcome is of this Russia investigation.
Yeah, look, don't get me wrong, the Russia stuff matters.
But long before he made the talk show circuit, or people around the country struggled to pronounce his name, Buttigieg was making a name for himself in his hometown of South Bend. Almost a decade ago, St. Joseph County Democratic Chairman Stan Rubel hosted a Buttigieg for Mayor fundraiser.
And if you had told me 9 years ago that this gentleman, who was very articulate, very passionate, clearly a bright person, but if you had told me that in 9 years he was going to be a front runner as president, I wouldn't have believed you.
Buttigieg served 2 terms as mayor before giving up the office to run for president. Critics raised questions about whether Buttigieg was prepared for the national political stage. Was he too green?
Because I couldn't get it done. My community is in anguish right now because of an officer-involved shooting. A black man, Eric Logan, killed by a white officer. And I'm not allowed to...
But Rubel says Buttigieg made an impression on South Bend, and his efforts helped turn the city around.
Has certainly embraced technology. He's embraced development. I think some of the criticism is that that's been focused on the downtown core. But I think a lot of the progress that's been made will translate into the neighborhoods in the future.
When Buttigieg entered the race, there were more than a dozen candidates running for president. A lot of people didn't expect Buttigieg to become a serious contender. Even members of his own party here in Indiana admittedly had their doubts.
What impresses me, though, is one, his courage to get in this race. I mean, that's a tough task, running for president, right? His courage to get in it, his wisdom to know when there wasn't a path for victory anymore.
Buttigieg finished 4th in South Carolina last weekend. Despite doing well in the 3 prior contests, University of Indianapolis political science professor Laura Wilson says there just wasn't a realistic path forward for Buttigieg.
But fundraising matters, and if you felt like he ran out of places to tap for fundraising, this was probably going to be the end of that campaign.
Wilson says Buttigieg's disappointing finish in the South Carolina primary, coupled with his struggles in attracting African American and Latino voters, may have contributed to his exit from the race.
One of the things that he mentioned was he didn't want to keep splitting that moderate vote, and that is very true. When you look at Buttigieg, you also have Biden, Klobuchar, a lot of people in the middle there that were really battling it out for each other.
Although his run for the presidency is over, his presence on the national political scene may just be getting started.
If a Democrat ultimately gets in office, he's certainly proven his chops on policy, and he could look for a position in the cabinet.
We must not treat the presidency like it's the only office that matters.
Rubel says Buttigieg's popularity shows he's among a new generation of political leaders ready to lead the country.
I don't think this is the last we've heard of him, and he certainly helped tell the story of South Bend and the successes we've had here. So it's been a wonderful thing for our community.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Adam Pinsker.
As for details about what Buttigieg plans to do next, he's not saying. When he spoke in South Bend Sunday to announce the end of his presidential campaign, those in the crowd chanted 2024. Data shows that more than 1 in 3 Hoosiers are obese. Minority and rural populations are especially susceptible. As Brock Turner reports, adult obesity reports are about 19% higher in rural areas than in metro areas.
Pepperoni or sausage or anything.
Mark Hobbs remembers the day he got the news. At 40, doctors informed him he had developed blood clots in his lungs.
It was a scary diagnosis that carries a high mortality rate.
Pretty bad overweight and knew it. I mean, I was having issues with back trouble and knee problems and stuff, and just never really had the motivation or the know-how to do what I needed to do about it at the time.
After a short stay in the hospital, doctors sent him home to recover, but he didn't bounce back in the days and even weeks that followed.
I think for me it was more a lifestyle. Just we had so much going on with, you know, the kids and after school stuff, and so we was constantly on the go, and we just never really made time for it. But when it comes down to a wake-up call, I had to make time.
The diagnosis was the motivation he needed. Hobbs, who lives in the small town of Gosport between Spencer and Bloomington, made it a point to start moving and get healthier. Those steps included regular appointments with a dietitian who helped Hobbs adjust his diet. He also made it a point to exercise regularly. Hobbs admits he was lucky there was a YMCA offering a diabetes prevention program not far from his home in Owen County. That kick-started his weight loss and helped get him moving.
There's several places in Bloomington that, you know, to choose from, but the YMCA is about the only thing in the Spencer area that there is.
Daryl White is the CEO with the Owen County Family YMCA, and he says he's thankful to be able to offer programs like the one that helped Mark.
I think we are still probably the smallest YMCA in the country that offers our diabetes prevention program to our local citizens. This is a program for people that are at risk for developing type 2 diabetes, and it's been shown to be very significantly beneficial, better than medication.
White says many residents are forced to leave the county for medical care, given that the YMCA is one of the only other facilities in the county where people can work out. Their members come from a large geographic radius. Laura Gentry is the Program and Community Wellness Director here and has spent years trying to help the local community get healthier. She believes folks in rural communities like these face extra challenges to get healthy.
Most everybody here lives a distance from here. We don't just walk here. So yeah, we have to put gas in our vehicles and drive here. Do we have public transportation? We have rural transit. They can only do so much. So yeah, it's transportation. It's having to commute to Bloomington or Indianapolis even to work. So that cuts into your day.
Data shows adult obesity rates in rural communities were 20% higher than in metropolitan areas. As a result, those living in rural communities were more likely to have obesity-related health conditions like diabetes and heart disease. That's something state health officials are aware of, too. Lindsay Baza is the director of the Indiana State Department of Health's Division of Nutrition and Physical Activity.
It takes longer to get to a grocery store. It takes longer to get to a place to be physically active, unless they are able to do it right outside their door. So those will always be challenges, and so it really is, again, just capitalizing on the resources that they do have.
The State Department of Health and other partners are working together to send resources to communities that are predisposed to obesity. In Owen County, much of the cost for programs like the diabetes prevention class Hobbs attends are subsidized. That's something that helps individuals with lower incomes afford resources that would otherwise be unattainable. While the rural setting presents challenges, Gentry believes there are also opportunities.
When you come in here, everybody knows you and everybody talks to you. I can go out here and run 5-10 miles and not meet a car out on some of the back roads.
And Hobbs agrees. He's at the YMCA every morning by 5:30 to begin his workout.
If you can't make the drive on a regular basis, at least, you know, get with somebody that can show you minimal things you can change and, you know, exercises you can do around the house, or, you know, even walking around the house or down the road you live on or something. There's options. You know, me, I needed help. I needed the guidance to show me basically what I need to do.
Hobbs has lost over 100 pounds in just over a year, and his goal is to lose another 50 or 60 more. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Brock Turner.
And murals by a Bloomington artist are adding color to the downtown. Adam Long's works adorn the walls of several local restaurants and businesses. Long is putting the finishing touches on a mural depicting a pair of bluebird wings. Fittingly, it's in the alley next to the Bluebird nightclub.
My canvas is a lot different than you would normally see. I put a lot of work into the different textures and different tones and the different glitter and shine and metallic and all of these different things that really popped.
There are 450 names on the mural. They represent all the bands who've played at the nightclub. If you go just a block north into the new Yogis, you'll see multiple murals Long did, including in the women's restroom.
This is where my mom says, can't you just be serious for like one freaking second for a photo?
Long has done 50 of these murals.
So on the wall around the bar, we have all color, and it's all color only and all swiggles and swirls.
Long collaborated with a group of teens for a mural on the outside of the community kitchen.
And what it would look like when you're looking into the community kitchen.
Long says his #1 goal moving forward is to work with children to help them realize their potential as artists. That's the end of this program, but our work continues online at WTIUnews.org. Have a great weekend.
Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Smithville Fiber Internet, streaming TV, home security and automation in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. MALLOR GRODNER Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis. LawMG.com. IU Alumni Association, connecting IU's network of alumni and sharing the Indiana spirit through scholarships, advocacy, and volunteerism. Alumni.iu.edu. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnership with communities and organizations. Rural.indiana.edu. And by WTIU members. Thank you.